Good afternoon, everyone, in the Zoom room. I'm Min Cox. I'm with WHS, Washington Headquarters Services, and I'll be covering the campaign manager's roles and responsibilities. Next slide, ma'am. Okay, so here are some of the things that I'm going to be covering today. So we're going to be defining the campaign manager. I think most of you are aware since most of you have been in that role or responsibilities. And I'm going to be just going over the structure of the agency and then how to build the CFC team and roles and responsibilities and what loan executive would do for the CMs for the agency. Next slide. Okay, so what is a campaign manager or coordinator? I think some of us might have a different name due to the structure of the agency or the size, but basically, simply put, CM is a designated person who manages a campaign for the agency or installation. So it's really just that, it's a name, but just want to make sure you understand what your roles are. So it could be, one thing I like to note is that the CM might be, it might be a collateral duty for most of us, which I'm sure it would be for most of you, but it could be built into your PD. So it could be a permanent position, but note that it cannot be it cannot be a contractor. So that's one of the questions that I get asked a lot. If the contractor who works for the agency doing the CFC want to be a campaign manager and it cannot be. So that's probably something that I've come across a lot. The CM has an intricate and critical role in the success of the campaign for the agency. So, this is very important. And the reason why I put the structure for the chart is because I wanted to show you where the campaign manager falls in, because this is, to me, when I was a first time a campaign manager, it was very confusing how I felt into the agency and what LFCC, LE. So I just wanted to give you a little snapshot of how everybody falls in. So we've heard of LFCC. They are on top, obviously. They are the governing board of directors for local CFC zones. And then you have an LE. So some of you might not heard of LE. It's okay because we have prior LE who's going to come on and explain to us what her roles and responsibility was for the agency and the campaign manager. And then we have the CFC chair. For me, since I belong to WHS, the CFC chair would be my director, which is Mrs. Regina Miners. And then you have the campaign manager. So if you are the campaign manager, you will fall under the agency's chair, and you will be direct support, and you work closely with the campaign director or vice chair. And you have the key workers who supports the CM. That's okay. You can go to the next slide now. And another example, just because I'm with WHS, and this is a very, it's easy for me to pull because we are working with so many different agencies from across the world. So I wanted to show you just a quick example of the breakdown of WHS. As you can see, it could be simple or it could be complicated depending on the agency you're coming from. WHS is considered a medium agency, and so I wanted to show you how it's broken down on the CFC level. So we have a director, like I previously mentioned, and you might have a deputy, you might have a vice chair or deputy director, which in our case it's vacant, and we have different divisions under the WHS, and I will identify each of the division with a coordinator. So like I said, we might have a different name for it, but if I was a CM and we have the chair, I will be the CM, I will be getting the coordinators for each of the division. And anybody that falls under the coordinator would be my key workers. And so I just wanted to give you a snapshot of how it's broken down for some of you who've never seen the structurally, like how it's broken down. Let me see, next slide, please. And so this is broken down even further because sometimes it is very confusing. Where do you start? So I would start with, like I said, agency work chart. So this is broken down to another level, just to give you an example of how it could be broken down even further. And like I said, this is a medium agency. Imagine if you had a huge agency. So it's broken into so many components. But as a campaign manager, you've never even seen this, or maybe you never had a reason to look at this chart. And so this is where I would tell a campaign manager to start with, is start with your work chart. And this is readily could be found in your agency website. So this is not a secret information. I think I Googled this one. So, I mean, it's not a secret information. You can pull it from anywhere. And then get with your HR and manpower. Find out if you don't have it, like the FTE, how many people am I really working with within my agency as a campaign manager? Because obviously it's going to change, it's going to evolve as you have people coming in and people leaving, but at least you have a general idea of who you're going to be reaching out to. And so you want to have a somewhat of a solid number so so you're achieving that goal of the 100% contact. And so what I like to do is as I'm initiating this, I make sure I get with, whoever is leading the WHS all hands or any orientation that might be happening for your agency, because that's another way to ensure anybody who's coming in to the agency for the first time gets aware of the CFC information. So you want to make sure you put that on your to-do as a campaign manager. Next slide. So once you understand the structure of your agency, first thing you want to do is you want to build a team. So I start with a spreadsheet, simple spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be complicated. So you know how many divisions you have within your agency. Like I said, I'm a WHS and we have 6 divisions. So I just align my division to this spreadsheet. So I will have my coordinator for each division, and I find out how many sections under each of the division. So depending on the division, you might have 4 sections, you might have 5, I don't know. So that's something that you can work with your coordinator to find out how do you break it down even further in order to reach everyone in your agency, because that is the main goal, is to make sure everybody's getting the word. And so I would say this is probably one of the most important thing as a campaign manager when you're getting your campaign started. Next slide. I forgot to mention, another thing is it's never too late to start forming a team. So you don't have to wait until 1 September when the CFC kicks off. You can start building your team right now. And so it's never too late. Earlier, the better. So when the campaign starts, you can start training them. And so I recommend, start building your team. And so once you have your team built or formed, you want to make sure they're trained. And then you want to start creating a campaign plan. But everybody wants to know when the campaign starts, how are you doing? What is our donation goal and how we're doing progress to goal? So this is something, like I said, as a WHS campaign manager, this is something I routinely provided to my coordinators to give them updates so they can send it out to their leadership, to their division leadership, because obviously everybody has a division director. So the coordinator will send out to their bosses, and then obviously it gets reported up. So this is an example of what the team will be receiving. And this is something as a campaign manager, you can create. How often do you want to, send this out? How often do they need this information? Because I could routinely say, hey, you'll get this once a week, but sometimes they might need it at a different time, depending on if they have internal all hands or any updates, they might want this more often. So that's something that campaign manager can work with your team to find out, how the information need to be sent out. So like I said, this is an example. Next slide. So now that I'm generally covering the basic information that I would do as a campaign manager and some of my responsibility. Obviously, there are so much information that you would do as a campaign manager, and your responsibility is endless. But I think Rebecca put in the chat room that there's a website that you can, tap into to get all the information downloaded. You don't have to do anything from scratch, but basic thing is to remember is that everything is available for you, and you have a team to lean on. But we have each other. We have this room. You have people who've done this before. So tap into them. Understand the CFC. Main thing is understanding. You want to recruit and you train your team. So that's one of the big things is you recruiting your team, because without the team, this mission will not be possible. Build a campaign plan. Don't do it yourself. You have a team to work with. You utilize that team, because nothing has to be done by yourself. And then once you have all that built, make sure you engage your leadership. We always say, hey, leadership is important. Well, you want to have that, momentum where you're engaging your leadership on routine basis. and then set the goals. It can be monetary or it could be participation goals, but you got to set some kind of goals because you need something to strive for. Create a timeline. There's a available timeline on the website that you can go with. But once you get all your dates down, when do you want to do a kickoff? Does your agency want to do a kickoff? In person, virtual, hybrid? I don't know. That's something that you need to talk to your leadership about and your team. What is your mission letting you? What are you capable of doing? That depends on the mission. Also, your energy too. And what events do you want to do? Do you want to do virtual events? Do you want to do, I don't know, in-person event? So that's something all can be built into the campaign plan. And then we want to make sure, if you can, close out ceremony to thank the key workers and everybody within the agency, because it's always good to thank everybody, regardless they participated, whether they donated. We want to make sure we thank everybody for participating in the campaign. And so the good way to do that is to do it with the closeout ceremony. And of course, your team is always promoting it. So, use the team throughout the whole campaign. And lastly, routine meeting is so important. I understand the time might change, things might slide, but have a reoccurring meeting set up with your team and with your leadership, to brainstorm, come up with events, ideas, ensure everyone has opportunity to learn about CFC. And of course, inspire them. There are more ways to give. It's not just monetary. There's a ways to give. Volunteering. I know we touched on volunteering. Well, it's easy. And trust me, it spreads like a wildfire. When you start an event volunteering, people want to get included. They want to do it because it's fun and it's very rewarding. Next slide, please. Okay. So as a CM, for the most of us, like I mentioned, it's a collateral duty. Thank you. Therefore, without the support of the loan executive, this will be maybe unpleasant experience for some of you because, you feel like you're on your own, but the LEs can eliminate some of that burden off of you. And so we have Marie, who is a former LE. She's going to enlighten us about her roles and responsibility. Ma'am, thank you for joining us. The floor is all yours.
Okay, and thank you very much, Min. Good afternoon, everyone. I am happy to be here to share with you my experience as a 2023 loan executive for the Combined Federal Campaign. I tell you, it was an incredible experience. It was fulfilling. I had a ball. And to me, it was not even like, it wasn't even like working. Who knew that there was a opportunity to support the different campaigns, to support nonprofits and charities, to work with federal employees, and get paid for it. And so these are things, I work with charities in my everyday life. I work with a lot of nonprofits. I work with my church, and I do that, just on an ongoing basis. And when I heard about this opportunity to come in, work as a loan executive for the Combined Federal Campaign, to help CFC raise awareness and to help with the various agencies, I was just so excited. I served for 6 months. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so what I'd like to do over the next few minutes, if you'll change the slide for me, ma'am, please. You can go on to the next one, please. Is just talk to you a little bit about what it actually means to be when you hear loaned executive. On the slide, it says, a loaned executive is a federal employee that's who's on loan. And so I work for the Department of Defense. And last August, my organization's leadership approved me after I applied to be assigned to the CFC for 6 months. And so it's called, it's a loan or it's a detail. And so I was on detail with the federal the Combined Federal Campaign for 6 months. And so what I'd like to do is talk a little bit to you about what our duties and responsibilities were, or what my duties and responsibilities were, or what the loan executive responsibilities are. So the main goal of a loan executive is to support the campaign team. On the slide, you see me, I'm over on the side here, and I try to depict this so that you can see the team. The team is important here, as men discussed. So the goal as a loan executive is really just to ensure that that agency team has everything they need to be successful and to run a successful campaign. And one of the things that I had a hard time understanding when I came on board with CFC was how that structure works. And so how it works is you first have your agency. Your agency then assigns a campaign manager. That's what men just talked to you about. And as a loan executive, we collaborate very closely with each campaign manager within, as I mentioned, the assigned agency. The agencies then form their campaign team. And as men said, the campaign manager's position, their collateral duty or extra duty, they're doing their regular job. And they're taking on responsibilities of the campaign, the combined federal campaign. So as loan executives, we come in and provide them subject matter expertise about the campaign. We help to kind of ease the burden a bit for them. We share campaign ideas and we help them push forward their campaign. But they are the driving force behind the success of the agencies. And it was great. I mean, I met some fantastic people serving in that campaign manager role. Many of them were very eager to do the job. They just needed our help, in providing information about, how to, because many of them step into the role one day they're doing their regular job, and then the next day they have this campaign manager's role. So they do go through a training, but they need ideas, they need assistance, it's our job to ensure that they have what they need. And so after that campaign, we identify and work with that campaign manager, and they build their team. We as loan executives provide the training. And I know last year I trained over 300 campaign managers and their teams, including those key workers and coordinators. So it's a big lift off of them, because imagine if they had to take on the role of trainer of their campaign team, as well as the campaign man, in conjunction with their role as a campaign manager. Another major role of the loan executive, and it's pretty critical, is working with the agency leadership. The leadership support and involvement in a campaign is essential for the success of the campaign. And so as a loan executive, we first encourage the campaign managers to loop their executive leadership into the campaign as much as possible. But we as loan executives provide those briefings. We present them with information. I tried as much as possible to involve them, the leadership, in assisting with building the campaign plans, because that was eliciting their buy-in to what we were doing. And also, of course, we kept them abreast of the progress along the way, depending on what their availability was. And so that's crucial. It's important to note that the agencies, like I said, they work independently. Each agency has their own campaign manager, they have their own campaign team, they have their own campaign plan. However, the agencies the information is shared through loan executives. So, they cross-pollinate. And this occurs when we have best practices that we can share. And not only do we share information with, from one agency to another agency, but we share information within the loan executive community as well. So as we learned of best practices, we share that information among each other. So that I thought, was very important, and it helped with the success because we were able to help each other. We even attended each other's events. We shared ideas, we shared, a lot of information. We had one team member who was able to build us a daily tracking, and he shared it with the team, and it helped, it was very helpful. So as we were able to come up with different best practices, that information then was shared amongst one another. Are there any questions about the team or how I interacted with the team? Okay, then we'll go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so once we get the team in place, we then help support each of, really help execute the campaign plan. And in many cases, events, there are many events that are a part of that campaign plan. What are events? Events would be any type of gathering or activity to help bring the group together to promote awareness of the CFC campaign. Some of the events were very elaborate. You may have had, like you may have a big fun run or, a large event that may involve, a couple hundred people, and that may involve a lot of coordination. But some are simple and easy to execute, like a simple, we had, some pizza party or an ice cream social. Last year we had, which was very fun, I thought. Our theme last year was Give Happy. And so we had Give Happy hours. And so that gave agencies, that activity or event gave agencies an opportunity to bring their groups together, and maybe like into a meeting room, bring a couple of signs from the CFC signs or posters, have some apple juice, and some went ahead and had adult beverages, and a few snacks and refreshments. And, we talk about CFC, we talk about the goals of the agency, we remind them how to give, how to pledge. And then, it kind of takes their mind off of their daily, whatever they have going on at the office that day for a few minutes. And then it puts the CFC at front and center of mind for them. And then we send them on their way. They had an enjoying refreshment for the afternoon, but then they also have the information they need on how to go and make a pledge for CFC. So, I mean, those are the types of activities and events that the LE would assist the campaign manager with. Also, of course, we are available to assist our campaign managers for all the kickoff events, all the award ceremonies, charity fairs, which I absolutely loved our charity affairs. Most of our charity fairs were held at the Pentagon. Great opportunity to talk with individuals, at the Pentagon and provide them with information on the CFC. So, I mean, we just had a wonderful time, doing events. Additionally, campaign materials are important, of course. I think someone mentioned that you go online for any campaign. Okay.
Sorry, you muted, Marie. Okay.
Okay. Campaign materials are available on our website. But in addition, there were campaign materials that we distributed the larger posters and flyers that was an opportunity to meet our campaign managers. And so we're out, we tried our best to, and we're encouraged to get into the offices to meet our campaign managers as much as possible face to face. And we were able to do that. And so that's a big part of our role as loan executives as well. But lastly, we have on the slide pledge data. As I mentioned, we had a wonderful LE last year who created a spreadsheet by which we could better track our information. But we are, I mean, you're dealing with pledges, you're dealing with numbers, you're dealing with goals. And so it's very important that we work with the data as it's received on a daily basis at about 6 a.m. in the morning, mind you. But, that information is key. As a loan executive, that's our job to get it out there. As soon as we receive that information, we had to provide the updates to our agencies so that they are aware of where they are in their campaign. So they are able then to provide.
Hi, how you doing, sir?
I'm sorry? So they were able to provide progress reports to their teams, to their agencies, to help motivate them to help reach their goal. So, it was very fulfilling as our campaigns reached their goals, to see how happy they were with the work that they had put into to help their agencies reach the goal. So it was just wonderful. Very fulfilling part of it was to see them achieve their targets. And the next slide, if you don't mind, please. Okay, and so basically, upon leaving the role as a loan executive, I feel that, as a loan executive, we benefited greatly. All of us, left fulfilled. We left with improved skills, sales and leadership, public speaking, communication. And so it was really a wonderful, and very beneficial experience. Personally, I feel that it's like the gift that keeps on giving is what is the way I think of it. And I say that because we've contributed to making the world a better place. I feel like we will continue, not just now, in 2023 or 2024, but we'll be making a difference in the lives of the beneficiaries of these charitable contributions, to those that will receive these donations for years to come. And like I said, along the way, I think we've honed some very, very valuable skills. So unless there are any more questions for me, again, I really enjoyed the role. It was incredible. And I wish, if there are any loan executives out there, that you all have a successful 2024 season and campaign season. So thank you very much for your time.